Good evening, ladies and gentlemen.
You sounded like Dracula there.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Ladies and gentlemen, and they-thems.
They-thems. We are coming off of a little bit of a break here. The listener, you won't really notice that because we'll be dropping these every 2 weeks. But we're coming off of a bit of a break. Tom went to Ireland.
Yeah, that I did. It was a grand old time. I can't really pretend any faux Irish nonsense because I'm just not very good like that. But it was a grand old time with the lads, you know?
It always is.
It was just spectacular. A lot of very funny graffiti dunking on the king and the royal family. Charles the Turd. I thought that was probably the best.
Charles the Turd.
I thought that was probably the best one.
Anything about his fingers?
No, but there.
Okay.
I saw another one at the tram station or one of the tram stops in downtown Dublin that said Charles the Horseface or something.
Nice.
So he's getting a lot of love in the Emerald Pearl City of.
We love to
Dublin.
see it. Make fun of all kings. I think we should normalize that. I don't think kings should be accepted.
Monarchy? Who needs them?
I think a lot of people in our
Who needs them?
next government under Donald Trump, I think, would agree a monarchy is not the worst thing. I think a lot of those dudes kind of want to go back to a feudal society. And as I just alluded to all of you, Donald Trump has been elected into the presidency for 2025. It is very sad and depressing and alarming. So we're going to do a ceremonial shot of this vodka called Fascist Tears. It is by Republic Restoratives Distillery. We are ready and fired up. We
just
had the election.
You should bleep that because they didn't pay for it. So
I am not going to bleep that
you should
because fuck them. And
but they need to pay us, bro.
You're
free advertising, bro.
No. Yeah, that's good for them.
And what about us?
It's not about the money, Tom. You should know that. Let's get this shot in, bro.
Yeah, okay, all right. Cheers to
fighting fascists.
Yeah. Cheers.
Suckers.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my God.
That's some good stuff.
Suckers.
Now, friends, these books are free.
Suckers.
Paid for by real Americans who want others to know the truth.
Suckers.
But I'm an American. Some of the things I see in this country of ours make my blood boil.
Suckers.
What's going to become of us real Americans?
Suckers.
Real Americans.
Suckers.
Real Americans.
Suckers.
Real Americans.
Suckers.
Remember that when you hear this kind of talk, somebody is going to get something out of it, and it isn't going to be you. So let's not be
Suckers.
Hey, everybody. This is Don't Be a Sucker, the podcast where we tell you how to not be a sucker and fall victim to the conniving schemes of the fascists that have kind of always existed and never went away, and we don't like to confront that.
Right. We just kind of pretend like they kind of put everything away, and then they just came back to being such friendly, loving Germans.
They just hung up the brown shirts.
Yeah.
They hung up their armbands and said,
all
"You know
went
what?
Home.
Yeah, they just went home and went, we tried it."
And then the next government, you know what they did? They went out and they got the vote. And that's how Germany. It's funny that I bring up Germany. Their government literally just collapsed like a week or two ago. We're recording this on November 20th, and their center left party. I believe it's not the SPD, not anymore. It's Der Link. That's what it was. Okay. Der Link is their center left party. Social Democrats and whatnot. That they lost confidence. They lost. I don't really. It's a weird system that they have over there. It's a lot different than the one that we have in the States. But increasingly worrying. A very far right party, the AfD, the Alternative for Germany or Deutschland, is swinging up in representation where they're like, we should be proud of our history. So a lot of It's not just here. It's not just in the U.S. It's there's a lot happening in Europe. It's some worrying times as of late.
Absolutely. And as we said on our intro, I mean, we have our own problems here in America with Donald Trump just having won our election here and putting a lot of pretty scary picks in office. I think or in his administration, and I think our only real hope is that he's a petulant child, and none of them will probably stick around all that long.
Right. And you probably the only ones that will stick around are the ones that like go out of their way to like not talk with them and like just like he kind of forgets that they're there, you know.
Just lay low, guys.
And he sees them like milling about in the White House, and he's like, "Who is that? Visiting?"
Unlike Elon, who's following Trump around like a little puppy.
I give that till inauguration. I actually their friendship is over before inauguration day. That's not lasting. He is like, no, yeah, he's a lost puppy. He's a little kid who keeps like in the body of a 50-year-old man walking up to this guy like desperately seeking approval.
You promised we can go to Mars?
Oh my God. Wow, man. And
he is really something.
And he's if he lasts, he's poised to be in
he's
the
going to be the head of Doge, the Department of Government Efficiency, because it's his favorite meme, guys. He's so funny, you know.
I'll be the first to say it when I say that. Maybe I shouldn't say that on the air. Maybe I actually shouldn't say what I'm thinking.
I'm going to say this.
You may know what I'm thinking, though. But maybe I shouldn't say what I was so tempted to.
Maybe,
just a moment ago.
Let's hold back all comments.
Hey,
now.
Hey, look, you know, I don't love you, Elon Musk, but for the record, I'm indifferent on you. If this was being played back in a courtroom where the jury is looking, I want everybody in the crowd to know I'm indifferent on you.
Big fan over here. I'm a big fan.
Of me?
No. Yes, of course. No, of Elon Musk in court.
This is for the court.
You'll
cut where you just said that.
It's all constructive criticism that I'm trying to give over on my end here. Tom's a bit more indifferent on it, but
I think we should crush his head like a grape.
And speaking of grapes, Italy is where fascism all started. Is that correct?
Famous for the grapes too.
Famous for their grapes and fascism. So last episode we introduced all of you to a few different thinkers, namely Leon Trotsky, Michael Parenti, Rajani Palmdutt, and we talked a bit about their analyses of fascism. Largely, most of their analyses were about the class content of fascism, how the rich class, the bourgeois class, will use kind of the petty bourgeois, kind of middle class, to essentially build this force against the working class. Mm-hmm. But, you know, they don't really exactly trust each other because, you know, the rich want to obviously stay rich, and the ones who are just kind of starting businesses have that American dream and want to become ultra rich, and kind of, you know, there is that kind of difference between them. But oftentimes the largest support of fascism is the middle class. Mm-hmm.
And I think it's worth noting, which I believe was the point was made in the previous episode, but in many ways, a fascist revolution is that of a faux revolution. I mean, it's a reaction to revolutionary.
It is
fervor.
counter.
It's a reactionary. It's a reactionary movement. And so in it being like that, I mean, that's the thing, is that it speaks true to actual ills, like a great number of ills within a country, at least in America. I mean, a large swell of the support behind Donald Trump, or lack of support in Kamala Harris as Democratic candidate, largely, I think, propelled by the Democratic Party's total abandonment of the working class. They've made it abundantly clear that the status quo and the state of affairs will continue as they were if Kamala Harris was voted in. And generally, when liberals, when people who have faith in the capitalist economic system, when they see suffering and they say, "Oh, this is all working as intended. Vote me in, and we'll make it work even better." And these things that they seemingly kind of, I don't know. I feel like they do mental gymnastics where they try and guilt you when you try and like point out all of the issues. Where it's like it's a slow build, it's a slow burn, I guess you could say, is kind of the argument. But the thing is that a reactionary leader will sell a false bill of goods. They'll make it seem like their movement has everybody's interest at heart, that like in the petty bourgeoisie,
and that maybe it's outside of like the norm of politics,
right?
And that it's working against the corrupt system rather than being just like disgusting like symptom of it,
right? And all it really seeks to do is to put itself at the helm of an already decaying system. Any kind of change within the actual governmental structure, at least in the American context, and also as well in historical context, is to destroy the functions of the state to oversee what capital and capitalists are doing. It just kind of lets it all kind of flow freeform. And I think that's a lot of the appeal, especially in the United States with Donald Trump. I mean, just that kind of conservative analysis of economics to begin with,
just an open market, laissez-faire, like the invisible hand will just take care of everything, when we know that's not true. I mean, all you got to do is just like look at the history of laissez-faire economics and go, oh yeah, it like requires like legitimate slavery at the end of the day, because they're just trying to lower the cost of labor, to the point where to them it is very beneficial to just get the cheapest labor possible,
Mm-hmm.
And I want to touch real quick on and I think all that was like very good, and I think one little thing I want to add to that is that fascism is looking to forcefully enforce the hierarchies that capitalism already put in place, where someone like Kamala and the Democrats are more trying to give you small concessions to make you less likely to rebel against them, but at the end of the day they're giving you those concessions so they can continue the imperialism and continue this hierarchical system, where fascism is like, no, fuck all that. We're just going to like force this heavily with our boot.
I would partly agree with that. The only thing I would detract from is the fact that the Democratic Party this time around literally offered no breadcrumbs of any kind.
Yeah,
they
absolutely.
offered, and I think that's largely the reason why they failed to get any popular. Because that's the thing; it's become a popularity contest. It's a populist. That's all the elections are in this country anyway. And I personally think what they're doomed to devolve into when they narrow the Overton window of political discussion to the only things that allow capitalism within the structure. Kamala Harris, like when people were campaigning for, I remember there was this video going out where they would like just ask random supporters what their favorite policy of hers was, and they literally could not name a single policy other than she's not the other guy.
You sure it's not the fracking?
Right.
Because my key issue this election cycle was the fracking. I was like, when is someone gonna put their foot down
on the fracking?
On the fracking issue? Like, I'm getting too upset here. I don't like getting like this on mic, but I'm sorry.
in all seriousness, though, she offered really nothing. She didn't really offer anything different. And I think the case could have been made, at least maybe back in, perhaps the 60s with like the, Great Society that LBJ was trying to push, or even in the 30s with the New Deal. There was a time when the Democratic Party, being the only, legal and legitimate, quote unquote, left party in the United States, even though they're definitely not left wing, but especially by international standards.
And I mean, even with, pushing back on civil rights
Right.
back in the day as well, and bugging them and,
and
wiretapping.
But the thing is that I think they've fully gotten to the point where they're just facilitators of the empire. Because the only thing that Kamala Harris was really offering that Trump would move, in lock and step with her on are the issues of military and border control. Where the Democrats, you would usually think were like the party that was like kind of cool with the, like, at least you'd have that image, the way that they'd try and poise themselves back in like 2004, 2008, that because Republicans are just so horrifically anti-immigration. But
well, it seems like she's trying to win back votes by being like, no, I am going to be hard on the border. And she has been.
She's trying to get the elusive swing voter that is just a Republican that doesn't like Trump. And I hate to break it to you
Dick Cheney,
or any liberal, but they're very uncommon. That was a strain of man that like broke apart like the Dragon Balls in like 2015, 2016. That person does not exist anymore.
Well, no, she got Dick Cheney.
Yeah, she got Liz Cheney.
She got like 17 cabinet members of Reagan on her team.
Right. And
guys,
also,
this is the team you want to be on.
Right.
I mean, look.
And so I think the only, in a lot of societies, when the only quote unquote viable left, so like alternative is just so, it's just a wet dog shit hitting the pavement, like just slapping on the ground. Like, how could you ever hope to get any type of popular support? Like there's just the sheer amount of people that voted in Trump. I think he got less votes this time around than he did the first time he got elected in, but there were just even that fewer people voting for the other side. So I think the lack of, I mean, not the lack of options, well, especially the lack of options in the US, but just the lack of enthusiasm or willingness to really do anything to even acknowledge that problems are there, I think is what pushes people, especially to fascist ideology, just like kind of in an implicit context, because they hear the guy who's selling nothing but bullshit and nothing but snake oil promise them things, and they're so desperate for anyone to even pretend like there's a problem,
right? That
because there very clearly is a problem throughout all strata of society, and I hate to break it to you, the problem is capitalism, but we'll just ignore that. There's somebody acknowledging that there is a problem, and so they'll move with that figure, even though they're totally going to just end up stabbing them in the back, and then in the next 4 years they're gonna be like, God, why didn't I get any of that shit I was promised like 4 years ago? What happened? Like,
right. And a lot of the things that they point to as the problems are a lot of the most vulnerable people in our society, whether it be trans people, immigrants, black people. They're never pointing to like really legitimate problems a lot of times. And another thing I was just thinking about with, Kamala and the Democrats just kind of like offering nothing. I mean, there were massive amounts of people out in the streets protesting the genocide in Gaza.
Mm-hmm.
And
fully behind the Zionist project, like in every step of the way, which I think completely kneecapped any chance from the jump that she would win.
I mean, it reminds me of, how Black Lives Matter was completely co-opted by Democrats, completely dulled. The edge was completely dulled and co-opted, and just
It's really the only thing that the Democratic Party is capable of doing is just completely declawing and defanging a revolutionary fervor of any kind.
It's where movements go to die.
Right. And so I think with this latest election cycle, people, especially because of the genocide in Gaza, especially amongst younger people, I think that mask has definitely been pulled off. There's a lot of confusion, especially amongst younger liberals. To me, it just rhymes so much with 2016. Like I feel like we're in the same year almost, like just the same exact. Do you get that feeling?
Yeah,
too?
yeah.
It's bizarre. It's bizarre because I'm seeing the same like really annoying upswing of like emboldened right wingers, like because their guy got in, but.
They're gonna have like Unite the Right 3.
Yeah, or
coming
something
up,
like that.
Because during Trump's presidency, a lot of those like ultra right wing people were kind of over Trump, know. But I think there is a good section of people now who are starting to kind of get behind him again, and I think it has a lot to do with the people he's picking, and that the people who are in his ear, like JD Vance.
I think he hates him. Have you ever seen those two hanging out ever? I think Eric Trump told him you need to, I think Eric Trump literally told him you need to pick JD Vance as your guy. And he was like, you know what, son? Yeah, I'll trust you. And then he did. And then he got to know him like, not even personally, but through the grapevine. And he probably heard about him fucking a couch when he was in college. And he was like, okay, well,
Who's among us hasn't?
I've definitely made the wrong decision here. It may be a little too late to do a Spiro Agnew to this guy and just, swap him out. I think it's a little late for that. But, here's hoping.
Right.
We could have our first... would he be our first millennial in executive office? I believe he would.
Yeah.
Because he was born in 81 or something?
Yeah.
It's scary times, man. He probably has a Funko Pop wall. You ever think about that? He's got.
Who do you think he's?
He's got a bookshelf of Funko Pops, like personally made ones that he got off of like Etsy, or he like 3D printed them himself, and they're like of like epic right wingers because he's one of those like really annoying Catholic converts. He didn't grow up Catholic.
Right.
Very key distinction. Catholic convert, who are some of the strangest fascists. Like that's probably it's like the strain of people that it's like, I'm so based and like, Imperium pilled, and I'm just like so like, I'm all about like, old Europe and the Catholic Church, and then they get pissed because the current Pope is Pope Francis, who's like not bad for a Pope.
For a Pope, yeah.
I mean, it's the Catholic Church, so you can only go so far. But for a Pope, not bad. And anytime they're a Protestant in disguise, and anytime they see something the Pope says that they disagree with, they forget the Catholic doctrine where it's like the Pope is infallible, bro. If you think the Pope is fallible, become like a Lutheran or a Protestant.
Right.
Just do the shit you were doing before.
Yeah,
like
people have like done this before.
Right.
Like
we hashed this out like 400 years ago. Like, and I don't know if you just missed the memo, but yeah, no, he's one of those strange guys. I think he's a groiper too.
He is, and
I'm pretty sure, which is alarming.
Oh yeah, and he's real close with Peter Thiel, and Peter Thiel funds Curtis Yarvin, who's like a weird feudalist who thinks you can just like, he wants to like divide America up into these just like little kingdoms. And essentially, if you don't like the kingdom you live in, you just like leave, And that's
because that's what you did back in the day.
Yeah. You just
if I was a serf working the land, it's not like I'm bound to the land. So when I'm done, I just go.
Right. Yeah. You're just like, I don't like this king. I'm going to head out.
Right.
And the king was like,
he didn't even know.
He didn't even care.
He didn't even know it was happening. I guess he could do that.
Right.
Although it'd be kind of hard to explain your situation without seeming like a brigand or something,
right.
But,
also, Curtis Yarvin is very anti-democratic. I mean, we can talk all day about how
I think
much our
all of
democracy.
these. I think all of these people
they are.
very
They are. No,
anti-democratic.
you're right. You're right. Yeah.
I think none of them stand out as exceptionally
No.
anti-democratic because it's like it's a room full of Nazis.
I mean,
like,
we can
know.
talk all day about the fact that our democracy in general doesn't really represent us
no.
in general, because it is a democracy of the bourgeoisie. It is a democracy for the rich. It doesn't really represent us all that well, but these people are just exceptionally like, yeah, these people, like, the average person should not have a say. I mean, if you read Project 2025, they'll say like, we need to bring, the power back to the people. But then all they're saying is like, well, we need to like get rid of like all of the administrative state and basically get all of the power back into Congress and Congress only, which they have a majority rule of. And they're trying to consolidate power rather than give you power as a citizen of this country. But we are in some pretty troubling times. I mean, there's a lot of libertarian influence in our government right now that, we got RFK, who is Department of Health.
Yes. And Dr. Oz as the Department of, what was it, Medicine?
Dr. Oz. I'm pretty sure Behind the Bastards does a Dr. Oz episode. And Dr. Oz is a terrible person.
I mean, he's horrible. I mean, the thing is, I remember when he was running a campaign against, I think it was John Fetterman, who was, I think he's Senate or House or something, in the congressional. And I remember everybody, because like John Fetterman was like kind of like, not center left, but he was like kind of like Bernie-esque, you know what I mean?
Right.
And then when October 7th, 2023 came around, just became fully like Zionist war hawk, and is still fervently so to this day. So it's kind of like you don't really have any shooters in Pennsylvania. It's just like they're just not. They don't exist. But yeah, Dr. Oz, the wife of Vince McMahon,
Matt Gaetz.
Matt Gaetz, was he Attorney General? Is that what it was?
I think so. Yeah.
Attorney General. The weird guy that has like the Deus Vult tattooed on his bicep, the Fox News anchor. What's his name?
Oh,
look it up real quick.
Yeah.
What
do I look up here?
Yeah. Just look up Fox News anchor Trump cabinet. I'm sure it will come up. Hegseth?
Pete Hegseth.
Hegseth? Look up his tattoo. That's what I was talking about. Pete Hegseth. There's no way that's how you say it.
Who cares? This dude's like a fascist.
Yeah, he's got.
I feel like we have the right.
He's got the
say their names
he's got the
wrong.
cross of like Crusader Jerusalem, like the, he's got the Deus Vult. Yeah,
he's got the
he's one of those
snake, the "Don't Tread on Me" snake.
Oh, the Gadsden. Yeah.
Oh my god.
The Gadsden flag.
They like.
They're playing the hits. The thing is, I don't know how long any of these people are going to last, because again, they're in Trump's cabinet, which is like a revolving door.
I love the "We the People" tattoo as well.
Right next to the Deus Vult.
As if the Constitution, when they said "We the People," really meant "We the People." You know?
Right.
I mean, it's just so insane to me, because a lot of it is based on just like, we need to go back to how the Constitution like meant for this country to be. And it's like, so you're saying we go back to the 1700s America, late 1700s America.
Yes, I guess that is the argument that, well, they're just not there yet, but if you really press them on it and you needle them for everything that they're trying to say, they will probably eventually get to that. Either that or some kind of like techno-feudal slave state type, patchwork of states. Kind of like that video game Kenshi. You ever play that game?
No.
It's exactly what I just described.
Techno-feudal, okay.
Slave state, yeah. Don't want to get lost in the desert. Yeah, so no, alarming things. They're just going to get more, they're probably going to get worse. Not to be like that to everybody, sorry, but they're probably going to get worse. over time, because I think also increasingly young men are definitely swinging right, like broadly.
Oh, yeah.
Like, but like as a whole in this country,
It's like the Manoverse has kind of
right.
like we're kind of entering this Manoverse that's been kind of building up, like all these people who are like, I'm totally an alpha, you're a beta.
Yeah,
Oh, Elon's such a sigma. He's just like, he's such a creative guy who just like is outside of the hierarchy.
That are the incels, or the men going their own way. Just like
Yeah.
a lot of the violently misogynistic like I mean, it's always been an issue, but I think with the proliferation of like feminism broadly throughout society
Yeah.
and across the federal and state governments, men have this reactionary reaction
Right.
to it,
Where any sort of equality of women comes off as like oppression for men.
mhm,
Right. It's like how, throughout American history, if, black people gained any sort of rights, white people would be like, but what about us? You're oppressing us now.
bro. What
because-"
about all lives? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like,
I think that it's a big point to talk about, that like misogyny is kind of at the gooey center of fascism.
it's very, and we will definitely be talking about that with one of our fun characters in a little bit. But I think with that as well, younger people, aesthetics are very powerful.
Oh, yeah.
And I think fascist aesthetics are probably what seeps through to people the quickest, especially in the sphere of the internet. I think a lot of very young men, specifically like in their teenage years, because being a young man in my teenage years who was interested in history, I witnessed a lot of infatuation, but also just like this I don't know, allure of like Nazi aesthetics, where people were
Definitely,
like they like they would make this fucking stupidest like music video montages of like Nazis marching with like fucking Little Dark Ages playing. Like, you know that song?
No.
Oh, we'll play that in between episodes. I'll just pull up one of these stupid fucking edits. They're terrible. They're so bad. But it's just I think the aesthetics, like how that translates into like, oh, these fascists, they're like kind of badass. They're like wearing all black. They're like evil. They're like fucked up. It's like, I feel cool being one of these guys. Like, it's the aesthetics that carry all of this. And it's the same thing, especially amongst like kind of like the newer age, like, people who are so obsessed with like alternative medicine and like RFK with the obsession of no seed oils and raw milk.
Right.
And
Okay, the raw milk. Sorry, I gotta go on a little, because
the raw milk.
America,
What's up with raw milk, everybody?
I believe, what's it called? When you boil the milk,
Pasteurization by Louis Pasteur, I believe.
Yeah, I believe America was about 30 years late on pasteurizing milk because we just didn't want to spend money on the infrastructure to boil the milk. And so we put like legitimate formaldehyde in the milk to try and stop diseases from
we put a lot of bullshit in particularly canned goods, as well as bottled stuff, this and that. This was before there were regulatory bodies enacted by the federal government,
right? Like the FDA.
Yeah. Most notably after Teddy Roosevelt read The Jungle by Upton Sinclair, which, it was funny, if you've ever read that book, at the end it becomes like a plea for everybody to join the Socialist Party of America. But Teddy Roosevelt read it and was like, damn, they're doing what in the pork industry? They're doing what in the meat industry? Like, I think he only read like halfway into the book, and it like turned his stomach when it was talking about like this immigrant's horrific life working in a slaughterhouse in Packingtown, Chicago. And so that's credited largely to the introduction of those, which increasingly with every very right-wing executive and congressional majority, continue to strip those regulatory bodies of their rights and abilities to regulate. And that's why it seems like every week or so there's a new recall on goods served in the United States. The latest one I just saw was like baby carrots sold literally anywhere. If you have,
Shout out to baby carrots. I'm not a
Don't.
big fan, to be honest.
and you shouldn't. As of like a week or two ago, if you have any, although this is going to be very late probably by the time it comes out, but you should toss them because they have like E. coli or something. And it's like every week that I feel like I hear about like a new thing needing to be recalled every week because there are very little regulations
right.
that are still, and this obsession with unpasteurized milk, with raw milk specifically, I think, I mean, say what you will about it, I personally think it's the argument is stupid against like non-pasteurization. Like, I hate to be so simplistic, but the science is there, bro. Like,
Oh, do you know
it's
how
a
many
total
people...
rejection of science. Like, there's
Yeah.
there's no basis of any kind. Other, it's like it's a on a similar level, and it's usually from the same people that argue that we should take fluoride out of the water. Which, yeah,
Oh, well...
some countries do.
Did
You're
you
right.
think about that it calcifies your pineal gland, Tom?
I thought it was fluoridizes here,
I heard it calcifies
or it turns into a little
with the fluoride. I
rock.
don't know. It turns into a rock. The way to
Little
get
pebble.
rid of it, looking at the sun,
Mm.
is what I've heard.
I've heard of this. Yeah.
It's all, of course, hogwash. I do want to bring it back a little bit to the aestheticism,
Yes.
if we can.
Sure.
You know, a lot of artists and fashion designers and musicians have kind of fallen into some fascist shit. I mean, if you, I
Kanye
think,
West.
was it Hugo Boss?
Kanye West.
Kanye West. Did Hugo Boss design the Nazi uniforms? I believe it was
I
Hugo
don't know
Boss.
off the top of my head, but that I would believe it.
I think
Sounds
Hugo
like a
Boss
German
did. I know Coco Chanel was a fervent Nazi, and Cristobal Balenciaga.
Oh, is it Balenciaga? I thought it was Balenciaga or something like that. Balenciaga. 'Cause
I've
it's
heard
like,
Balenciaga.
I don't know.
I'm
I'm not rich.
an idiot.
The
so
whole
who knows?
outfit I wear on a daily basis is probably a grand total of $15 head to toe. So that shows you how much I know about designer.
Dude.
I
Shout out to
find my shit off the street, bro. Like, fuck the
shout out to
Goodwill.
Goodwill. Let's hear
fuck
it for
the,
Goodwill.
Fuck the Goodwill, bro. I'm finding my shit in the gutter.
Yeah,
Throw that
I
in
mean,
the wash a couple of times.
I personally feel for the aestheticism.
Yeah.
Just obviously not falling into fascism, but just as someone who has written lyrics and made music, and draws, amateurly, and is a wordsmith.
I think you're a good artist.
I'm okay.
And a wordsmith. You're like a little Shakespeare, bro.
I'm a little to be or not to be. I just wrote that one.
Okay.
So, when I was writing lyrics, I found myself often kind of researching a lot of just really far out conspiracies, or just trying to find inspiration in really unique ways.
Yes.
Because as a musician and an artist, aesthetics, I mean, that's kind of the whole game,
Right.
So oftentimes, I found myself just kind of going into those UFO theories and just the super deep, conspiracies, the JFK conspiracies, the Sandy Hook kind of bullshit. But oftentimes you're just, it's like we'll talk about with Umberto Eco when we get to him in his analysis of fascism. There's a syncretic nature to it, which is basically, kind of these opposing ideas that get kind of molded into one thing.
Right.
You know, like
An
you had
amalgamation
a
of everything.
slice of bread with peanut butter. You had a slice of bread with jelly. You know, they're very different, but then they put them together and made something completely new. Have you heard of this?
That's right, folks. The PB&J is a fascist fucking food.
Fascist sandwich because of its syncretism.
So if I catch you eating that, it's a brick to your teeth every time.
Yeah.
I'm curb stomping you.
Yeah. But I think there
Get ready.
is certainly like a syncretic nature to making music and writing lyrics. I mean, just having to pull from different sources of inspiration. It's why I don't know if that's the direct reason why someone but I think it's very appealing to people who are already kind of into a syncretic creative lifestyle. I think fascists don't really have much.
They're pretty shallow when it comes to creativity.
They
I find.
are.
If I'm in any, I'm not exactly a creative myself. I am a connoisseur of the many different arts and artistic, but I'm by no means a quote unquote creator or author or painter.
But that's okay. You need people to consume.
I'm just a consumer, unfortunately. The ones that fascists usually make are the explicitly fascist ones. It's usually just like you kind of just look at it, and unless like you're a 12-year-old where you're just like, oh, that's so cool. Everyone's wearing black and they're so cool,
Right.
And they're like so evil, and they're like bigger than them, and they're like they have everyone in chains, and they're like doing the things that I want to do. And there's definitely like a weird.
It's like a power thing.
Yeah, it's a power trip a lot of the times, but. I feel like when you're outside of that very impressionable age group and you have like, not to be all snotty, but you have a little bit more of a complex, like a deeper analysis. Like
once you're past 20, there's no excuse for it.
Right. Yeah.
No excuse.
It's kind of on you at that point. Like I sure maybe getting like impressionable, but like it's such dog shit a lot of the time. Like fascist art and music and quote unquote culture, it's such dog shit. Like it's so, I mean, we'll get into it as the show progresses, like just how bad it gets. But like I'm usually thinking of like art, like
Right.
that's personally where I usually jump to, and it's usually just like so. It's like as shallow as a pond. It's as wide as a pond to give the veneer that it's all like, look at how deep and intellectual and bohemian our society is. And then like you jump into the center and you break your back because of how shallow it is.
You
You're
dive head first and just
die.
Yeah.
You just like drown in like a foot of water. No, it's like, no, it's bad.
it's all very shallow. I mean, that's the thing with fascist ideology in general is it really hollows out anything that it takes. Like the syncretic nature of it is almost a propaganda tool rather than like a legitimate tool for creation. It takes and takes and takes and just hollows out any legitimate meaning. Like, I mean, the big thing I think of, just like a more modern example, is like the skinhead movement,
Right.
which was a very leftist working class movement until fascists realized it was a good way to bring people into their fascist Nazi movement. And they co-opted it. And
I mean, to the point where now you hear skinhead and you usually assume you're talking about a neo-Nazi
Right.
in this day and age.
Right.
Which I'm sure was a very different story at the time that it was propping up. And what would you say, the 80s, 70s or something?
Yeah, like the 80s.
Yeah.
With like, Tom Metzger and William Luther Pierce even got his hands in some skinhead and like music, like just fascist music. But that's like a shout out to all the leftist skinheads who have fought like these fascist skinheads straight up because they co-opted their fucking movement.
Right.
And
and fuck them.
and fuck them, but they just hollowed out everything that made the skinhead movement what it was, and just injected it with this distilled hate and just like this disgusting ideology that's just
the only connect, because I'm not exactly big in the music sphere myself, but the one connection that I immediately think of in this discussion is if you've ever seen the movie The Wall, Pink Floyd's The Wall, specifically the song, I think it's second or third to last song, where it's the scene where all the hammers are like marching. You know what I'm talking about, right? If you've seen the movie, you definitely know what I'm talking about. Like that song and that imagery very obviously like detailing itself as like, this is the bad thing.
This is the thing you don't want to be.
These are the things that are evil. This is an evil movement that will destroy your psyche and make you distrustful of everyone around you and make you just a paranoid like loser who doesn't really know. Like, and then fascists saw that like, that is so fucking awesome. And that song just, I won't lie, it's a good song.
It's a good song.
But it's probably the worst part that it's like a great song and it's like a Nazi like marching kind of like that's
anthem.
Yeah. And they saw that they just had no like complex like analysis or thought into it other than that looks cool. I want to be doing that.
Right.
And then they formed what was it?
The Hammerskins.
The Hammerskins. That's what which is just an explicit ripoff of that.
And the Hammerskins
iconography and all that.
Yeah.
In the movie.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's a great example. I mean, the Hammerskins are just like just like this ultra militant, just like street fighting group, essentially, of like just skinhead Nazis. And
Dickheads.
if you look at their symbol, it's that symbol that Tom's talking about from Pink Floyd.
The two hammers. With the red handle, I think.
And another example is like Lord of the Rings often gets like gets
Lord of the Rings
gets co-opted. I mean, like Warhammer,
Warhammer, Jesus Christ, that's probably 70% of the player base of Warhammer.
Oh my God,
Mein Kampf under the fucking pillow.
Yeah, I've seen some character builds where they made their character just look like Hitler, and their name is just like Hitler,
the Führer.
Yeah, the Führer, some shit. It's pretty disgusting. I mean, they don't, obviously Warhammer, like Dark Tides, for instance, is like
For those who don't know, by the way, Warhammer is a video game. Because I don't know what age group is going to be largely listening to this. So if this is going over older folks' heads, this is a video game.
It's a video game.
And also a board game, but Tom's talking about the video game.
Yeah, I'm talking about the video game. And a lot of the cut scenes will have all these very fascist like slogans, like live for the emperor, like just all these like,
which I think they're taking the piss. Like the developers are like definitely trying to like in kind of like a Starship Troopers type fashion, like be like, isn't this stupid? Look at how obsessive and weird these guys are. But then again, goes over the fascist fan's head, and they're like, that's actually so awesome and cool, and I should die for a noble and worthy cause.
Praise the Omnissiah! It's like, oh my God, dude. You're missing the point.
It has, I will say to anyone who is out of the loop with this video game, because I've only really played Vermintide, which is like the Left 4 Dead ripoff, where it's all medieval. So that's my only exposure to it. But the more future-y shit, like Warhammer, what is it, 40K?
40K, yeah.
That has such a bad reputation in my mind as far as like just how like steeped in fascist fanboys it is, that anytime I hear anyone that I don't know bring up that they like Warhammer, I usually like brace myself. I'm like,
oh no.
I'm like, okay. And then I'm like starting to look to see like what the background on their phone is, or like what their background on their computer is. see if they have any like funny number codes tattooed anywhere, or
Which I'm sure they do.
imprinted, any badges or medals of any kind, maybe a cross of a particular stint, you know.
There's a lot of like faux swastikas in the game where it's like a 3-pronged swastika like on the wall, or like there's all sorts of
like a
symbols.
knot or like a some kind of thing.
It's like it just like if you play the game and you just like look around the map, you go, huh.
Yeah.
Like none of them are connected to real life
Right.
fascist movements at the moment. I'm sure there's probably
give it maybe 50 years, and one of the guys who grew up playing only that video game is going to be like president or something.
right, and he's gonna call himself the Omnisire.
That's my biggest concern, is that more and more young people, like people our age, are growing up with this like very, very deeply brewed radical fascist ideology that has been just like steeped and brewing and building since like youth, since like 14. And when they get like to the age of like 30 with no intervention of any kind, and they've just, become an outcast because of what that type of thinking does to you mentally, eventually all those people are going to grow up and be even older, and if they don't just start killing everybody in the form of a mass shooting, they're just going to get into elected office and just do it through the legal proceedings at power. Like, give it 30, 40 years, bro. Like, we're already having our first millennial in office who is like a Nick Fuentes Groiper Catholic convert. So give it another 20 years, and I'm just going to say it's going to look pretty grim. I just want to say I dread the day that somebody with more than 1,000 logged hours of Hearts of Iron 4 becomes the president.
Oh God!
Once
save us.
Once it's that, we're doomed.
We're doomed. We're done.
Doomed. We're doomed. We're doomed.
We're doomed. We've been going off the rails, and we have not touched anything we were setting out to do. I apologize to the listeners, but I don't think
I stick by my guns. Tom will be afraid to say it, but I won't. Fuck you.
Fuck you guys. But like, I think we're at a very
we're at a tipping point.
We're at a tipping point, and I think me and Tom need to blow off some steam if you'll let us. And
well, we already did.
We already did. We already have. I want to, I think, it's easy to hang our heads right now. I definitely took a week and just hit some bourbon.
Drown them sorrows.
Drown them sorrows a little bit. But I think we need to all surround ourselves with, revolutionary optimism. Surround yourself with people who want to make the world better, who, let's call what's going on as it is. And let's be critical of the Democrats right now. I think obviously me and Tom are going to be, we are socialists, but if you're a Democrat and you're still listening after we said that we're socialists,
I'd be shocked if you were here beyond episode 1.
Right. If you're here beyond episode
very
1.
Very tolerant.
Right.
Very tolerant, which I guess you have that badge.
Right.
The show.
I think we need to point out the failures of why the Democrats are totally impotent to fighting the MAGA fascism and the oncoming waves of fascism that once Donald Trump is gone, in my opinion, he is not the thing I'm most worried about. It's all the people, the Liberty Lobby and, just kind of all the people in the shadows who are using Trump to kind of gain more power, consolidate more power. Because at the end of the day, I think Trump is doing this for himself. He's an ego
Trump's out for
driven.
Trump.
Yeah, Trump's out for Trump. He
And ain't no Trump Jr. either. We're talking him.
Yeah, we're talking
not the family. We're talking him himself.
Right.
And just him.
right.
His
I'm worried.
immediate happiness. Yeah.
I'm worried about the Vances, the Peter Thiels, the Matt Gaetz. I'm worried about the Nick Fuenteses. I'm worried about all these people who are in that bubble, in that circle, because the thing is if we had voted in Kamala Harris, we would be seeing a very huge reaction. And the thing that's crazy to me is they're calling Kamala a communist, a Marxist, all this bullshit.
Well, they
right?
were calling. They're not doing that anymore.
No,
'cause
not
she lied.
yeah,
They were calling her that when it mattered.
Right, when
Now-
it mattered. They're trying to pretend. I mean, they're trying to say that Kamala wants these open borders, and she wants to fund ICE and fund the border and fund these detention centers even further. She does not want open borders. What she wants is that, it at best, she wants an easier pathway to citizenship. At best, she has no plan for undocumented immigrants who are already here. She would probably still love if we profited off of them, if we still exploited their labor. I don't think there's any issues there, but they're trying to smear her by calling her a communist and a Marxist and all this bullshit and all the things that fascists. I mean, every fascist we're going to talk about hates communists, hates Marxists, hates Jews, hates globalists, hates, even liberals, hates all this shit that they lump together. I've seen people lump together communists and bankers as being on the same team. It makes no sense.
Bro, that's a truth nuke.
And
right
that's remember when we talked about Michael Parenti's irrational fascism for a rational reason? They are using an irrational, calling Kamala Harris is irrational. It makes no sense. She is not a communist. She's not a Marxist. But it is for a very rational reason that they're calling her that, because in a lot of people's minds, it has a certain connotation and it smears her name.
I think most evidently amongst the American people, it's lost its meaning. The word has completely lost its meaning, where if you press anyone to actually ask what that is, they don't really know. They just know like it's evil and it's like Joseph Stalin and it's like, 20 million, it's like a billion people dead with the black book of they don't really have an idea because they haven't needed to have an idea, because you just deem somebody as that and it's like calling somebody a witch,
right? Ignoring the anti-colonial struggles in Africa for like African independence for a lot of countries that were built on Marxist ideology and also Pan-African ideology, like a mixture. It has its own. The thing about Marxism is it develops based on the material conditions. So an African Marxist would have a more Pan-African version of Marxism. But this, all this to just say, they're pulling out all the stops.
Well, they already did. They won.
They already did. They won.
Yeah.
I don't know why I'm saying it like it's still going on. They won.
It's because Tom hasn't cast his vote yet. He's holding it in his hand right now. And
yeah,
I think the dread is hitting him. I'm watching his face turn white. And
was it with you that we saw the dude on the overpass on the highway that said Trump 2025?
No, but I did see a one man. I don't even know if I could call it a protest, but I saw one guy with one stand with one sign with an American flag he was wearing as a cape at a specific intersection, which I won't say on the podcast, but it was in the city and it was downtown, and he was all by himself, and I just passed him by on my bike and was like, what a tool. But I didn't really pay him much mind beyond that, because I think it was Monday. I think it was the day before, or no, I wasn't here for the day before. It was a week before the election, but yeah, no, it's and they won,
They won. And all this to say that Kamala does not have your best interests in mind. She never did.
Never did.
The Democrats do not. They are looking to uphold the status quo.
And here's the kicker: neither do the Republicans.
Definitely no.
Here's the kicker:
people often hear that and go, "Well, obviously it'd be better if Kamala was in." It's like, yeah, anyone with a brain would think it'd be slightly better. But if you talk to someone on the Gaza Strip, if it'd be better to have Kamala in than Trump, I don't think, it wouldn't make much of a difference.
No.
So, we need to surround ourselves with people who want, a better democracy that really represents us. We need to de-imperialize, we need to decolonize, we need to give power to people who are oppressed, and we need to uphold, voices of people who, aren't heard in our country and aren't listened to, and
marginalized voices.
Gotta
listen to them. Get out and organize.
Because in my opinion, from what I've seen, a lot of people who are marginalized in this country are not hanging their heads.
Right.
They're doing what they've always done, and they are putting their chins up, and they're fighting this thing. And as white comrades, we got to fight this thing too.
Hell yeah. So my 2 suggestions before we close out this episode. One, we all need to start posting more. I think that's how we'll fix the fascist. We all need to. We all need to start posting more on Twitter,
X,
on Blue Sky, because that's becoming a thing.
That's Twitter now. I call that Twitter. X is X. Blue Sky's now Twitter.
It's confused. There's some weird lawsuit inbound. We all need to get onto X, Blue Sky, Truth Social,
Gab,
Instagram, Grindr, Tumblr, is there another? WhatsApp, Telegram, and
4chan still exists.
Don't go there. Go to 8chan actually.
8chan's where it's at now. Yeah.
Yeah, 4chan fell off. And we all need to be more annoying in our posting. We all need to be being loud and obnoxious. And anytime the president Trump tweets something that we don't like, you have to be a liberal in the comment section, like wagging their finger, like, I disagree, Mr. President, but I will fight to the death for your right to tell me what's what. We need to do that. First
At the end of the day, we will reach across the aisle and we will fight for the same goals.
Right. Which is, well, let's not talk about those goals. And 2, the second thing that needs to happen, liberal January 6th. Okay, think about it.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Think about it. Now imagine this. You have
we all storm a Chick-fil-A. What are you thinking?
Well, I'm not a liberal, so I'm not.
Okay,
I won't be here for this one. I missed my flight, but no, the idea, just contest it, go in, and then get the whole cast of like Hamilton to do like a number or something in the congressional floor. In like the senatorial floor or something, do a number to, invite Lin-Manuel Miranda to just like kind of come out there and just like start freestyling, like just really drop that like 2016 heat,
Nice.
And let's make it happen, folks. Encourage all of your liberal aunts, uncles, parents, acquaintances, coworkers, that this election was stolen, and they need to do something about it. Not you, because you have no horse in this race, but they do. But they need to do it in a way that is respectful of the law. So just run out there, spread the word, Paul Revere style, and that's my remedy, I think, for what ails America in 2025.
I gotta agree with all of that. Just full-heartedly. We're gonna wrap up here. This has been our episode of ranting and going off the rails. This is our off the rails episode of Don't Be a Sucker.
Suckers.
Bye.
Goodbye.